U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has warned countries of secondary sanctions over their trade with Iran. Bessent says the administration is serious and that he doesn't intend to blow up the global financial system.
We are giving everyone the opportunity to remedy bad behavior. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system? We believe that it is important to level set and give people a cure period, but they should know that that will move very quickly and that we are serious. Secondary sanctions are a very powerful tool.
President Trump has declared what he calls an economic D-Day against Iran, promising the most crushing economic operation ever imposed on a country. But there is a fundamental question behind the threat. Can the United States actually isolate Iran? Trump is threatening not just Iranian companies, but foreign banks, businesses, airports, government entities, ship registries and financial networks that provide Tehran with what he calls a lifeline. The targets include oil smuggling, cash transfers, exchange houses, swap lines, and front companies. But Iran is not starting from zero. Years of U.S. sanctions have already forced Tehran to build an alternative trading system, one that relies heavily on China, neighboring countries, intermediaries, and so-called shadow fleets. China is by far the most important piece of the puzzle. Before the war, China accounted for about 90% of Iran's crude exports, while crude oil flows have fallen by a third since then. The value of that relationship is much larger than official customs figures suggest. So Trump's problem is simple yet complicated. You cannot completely isolate Iran unless you can also shut down the channels connecting Iran to its biggest buyers. And that could mean confronting China.
The Treasury Secretary said that the United States is ready to implement a new round of secondary sanctions, not just on Iran, but on any country or entity that does business with Iran. And that could include heavyweights like China, which buys oil from Iran and also interacts with its banking system. So this could set up a high-stakes confrontation with China right before President Trump is expected to meet China's leader Xi Jinping at the end of next month.
That does not mean Trump's strategy cannot hurt Iran. It already has. The Iranian economy is facing an extremely difficult combination of war, sanctions, disrupted energy exports, and currency pressure. The IMF currently projects Iran's economy will contract over 5% in 2026, and consumer prices are projected to rise by almost 69% this year. Iran's non-oil economy, however, gives Tehran additional channels. Iran's export basket includes natural gas, propane, bitumen, methanol, steel, metals, and petrochemical products. But Iran's trade goes well beyond China. For its non-oil exports, Iran's biggest destinations include China, Iraq, the UAE, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Oman. On the import side, the UAE, China, and Turkey are the biggest suppliers, followed by India, Germany, Russia, and the Netherlands. The UAE has now suspended trade and financial transactions with Iran, a major blow because Dubai has historically been an important commercial and financial gateway for Iranian trade. But that also shows the limits of a simple US versus Iran narrative. Gulf countries are primarily trying to protect their own economies and security. They're not necessarily signing up to every US objective. And this is where Trump's economic war becomes a domestic political problem. The national average price of regular gasoline is over $4 a gallon. That is more than 25% above a year earlier. So Trump's economic war creates a paradox. The harder Washington squeezes Iran and the longer Hormuz remains disrupted, the greater the risk of an energy-driven inflation problem at home. So can President Trump actually win this economic war? If the objective is to make Iran poorer and reduce its ability to finance its military, the answer is potentially yes. But if the objective is complete economic isolation and forcing Tehran to surrender, the challenge is much greater. If Washington goes after Chinese companies, Turkish businesses, Indian entities, or Gulf financial networks, the Iran campaign could become a much larger confrontation over who controls global trade and finance. And there's one final question. Can Trump force Iran to pay the economic price without forcing American consumers to pay part of it also? Because with oil above $90 a barrel, gasoline around $4 nationally, the economic war is no longer being fought only in Tehran. Some of its costs are already being felt in America.